Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the PP code.
The PP code.
Right? That's correct, isn't it?
100%.
Like it's PP time. We're bringing the PP energy
Yes.
because we're going to talk about PP stuff.
Right. PP stuff. Not what people are thinking. Like,
Maybe it is. Who knows?
maybe, who knows? We could talk urinary tract stuff.
We haven't even gotten there yet. I don't even know what we're talking about. So obviously it's just myself and Danika today. Christina is doing a little cross-country drivenings
Yes.
with many children.
God bless.
The patience that woman must have.
Oh my gosh. I don't believe that she actually does. I think that she just I truly believe that there must be a switch inside our auditory system where it's and then we cannot hear a thing. And then people will be like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And they're like, "Hey." And that's how you kind of combat the external stimulation. And I feel like she does that really well.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Boop.
I just zone out. I'm just like, yeah, the world no longer exists to me, homie.
Yes.
So this one, so I'm not gonna lie. I noticed somebody talking about something in the Transformation Challenge group.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like, hey, I'm off track again. Like my weight training's okay and like my cardio's okay, but like I just can't get my nutrition in. And so I thought it was something great to talk about because I also had somebody check in today that was struggling with this and was able to own it. And they said, my food quality is just not good.
Mm.
And so I thought it would be maybe nice because obviously typically if you know me, I can get kind of cranky and be kind of negative sometimes. And so it's like, well, how do we talk about like good things to do in terms of food quality and why does it matter?
Right.
And like, what does that mean to you? Because I think one of the big things for a lot of people is definitions matter. Right. And I think even just getting started on this, you and I maybe had a slight differentiation, a little bit of a different English word,
Insert.
a little bit different of of how we are delineating what does food quality mean for us. So what's your interpretation or definition of food quality?
Yeah. So my definition or my perception or how I what I live by is food that is providing me nutrients, minerals, vitamins, and gives my body, doesn't put extra stress on my body, but allows me to have more energy to do the things that I want to do, that it just fuels me well and also is worth my money. So I'm big on if I'm going to spend money on it, I need there to be a reciprocation. I need to have a benefit of it. So there has to be an intention for it and a good solid benefit, a value to me. So that's my rule or whatever you want to call it. My
definition.
What?
Yeah. So like for me, I guess my definition of food quality is there's definitely some overlap there, right? So I'm generally looking at, when I'm talking about more quality foods, generally speaking, more nutrient dense foods, things that are less processed, things that give you more bang for your buck when it comes to feeling full for the amount of calories that you're getting out of that. So
Yeah.
generally speaking, we'll say leaner proteins, boneless skinless chicken breasts, white fish, white meat turkey, lean beef, those kind of things. Maybe bison, um, deer,
Right.
venison, that kind
Love
of stuff.
venison, love it.
Right.
Yeah.
White fish, sure, maybe some salmon and stuff. Salmon might not be super low calorie, but I think it's still a very quality food.
Yeah.
And also less processed food options.
Right.
Um, and note for me, the answer isn't no processed food options. It's less processed.
Less.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still going to have cake once in a while, but it's going to be an intentional thing. Yeah, I'm still going to have maybe frosted mini wheats for cereal or raisin bran for cereal. Is it processed? Kind of, sort of, yeah. But is it, the same as Cocoa Pebbles per se? No, it's not the same.
Right. Right.
Um, so I like to differentiate it there because I think in current, a lot of people are getting caught up with food quality in terms of like additives and such right now. Like that's the popular thing. And
Yeah.
that's not where I'm putting my definition for that. And so if that's you, just understand that like when I'm talking about this, that's why I wanted to define it for you because I'm not really super worried about that in the grand scheme of things. I'm worried about the majority of those things that come before that in terms of order of importance for me.
Right.
Not to say that those things don't matter at all, but for me, it would be if I get to trigonometry, that's when I might start worrying about it. You know what I mean? But I'm
Yeah.
most of the time I'm worried about addition, subtraction, multiplication, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Another thing that I also think it's important to know that you have to be able to, if you are going to make changes with food quality, that it doesn't have to be this like you said, going from like subtraction and addition to trigonometry. Like it can also just be maybe you add in multiplication. So I like to tell people if there's a laundry list of ingredients and you wouldn't like you just get kind of overwhelmed and you don't even know what they are, maybe you just have a different choice that has smaller amount of ingredients. So instead of like a huge list, now we're just aiming for a smaller list, and that might be your next step. Like those small choices really, really, I feel benefit you so much, and you may not be able to like see it, like it may not be a visual thing that you can see all the time, but like it's doing something to your body. So and then maybe once you get there and you realize that that wasn't that big of a deal, like that kind of switcheroo was pretty easy for you to do, then maybe you can like add another layer and like see if you could you have only 3 ingredients or whatever that may be. But I'm saying like there should be kind of stepping stones for people because I think that's where they get overwhelmed. Like cereal is a great example, right? If you want to do, say you're like all in on Fruity Pebbles all the time, but you're like, you know what, I think I want to change this up. Then maybe you could look at like, are there other ones that are made without preservatives
Or you
or
could do Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows
right?
because that's still what you mean.
But like saying, okay, maybe I could do from Fruity Pebbles, maybe I go to like Chex cereal or Raisin Bran. Like maybe I go to Raisin Bran and then maybe from there, maybe I say, well, there's a couple of ingredients in here that like I'm kind of unsure of. So maybe I go to a certain brand that's like literally right next to it. And you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, this actually only has 4 ingredients. And I would have a tablespoon of each of those ingredients separately if given the opportunity. So I think it's like a step-by-step thing when you are going and making changes or putting food quality at the forefront of your decision making.
So, and I would say I think that you're way ahead of me on this because normally, if we're gonna start having the conversation of food quality, for most people that means because like you got to understand, and I think maybe people listening to us aren't quite in this basket of people. But a lot of people, they do fast food multiple times a week. They're
Yeah.
not preparing a lot of their food. They go out to eat. Maybe, alcohol is a normal part of things. Um, and so getting into ingredient labels and lists might even be putting the cart before the horse for you, depending where you're at.
Right.
It might be able to be something that we can do that's very simple, like, okay, how many servings of vegetables do you have a week?
Right.
And it, like, if the answer is 0, go pick up some frozen veggies. Because a lot of people will hate on frozen veggies. Oh, they don't have the same, like, okay, cool. But if it's a frozen veggie or no veggie, do a frozen veggie, right?
Right. Right.
And maybe we just add 1 serving per day. Like, so
Right.
now, instead of changing everything up, it's like, well, how do we improve that food quality? Great, we include some other things that are going to be healthy for us.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, for me, the easiest way to like notify people on that, on the low end, that doesn't take a lot of education or time investment, is looking at how much fiber is in it on the nutrition label. Not always a catch-all, right? Because there's like the high fiber stuff, and there's other things that might necessarily not be like, not the same as getting fiber from the plants, and they can do over the taller stuff. But overall, like, things that you would quote unquote call healthy
Yeah.
are going to be a little bit more fiber dense in what they have, which also means they're going to have more micronutrients, which is a really super easy way to help improve that food quality in your diet, especially if you're like, man, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. Yeah. I There are two things. So I have a few clients who like they didn't, one was just a mindset client, but didn't know where to start. And I started with fruits and vegetables with her. I was like, do you have any fruit during the day? And do you have any veggies during the day? And she was like, no, I have a honey bun and a Coca-Cola. And I'm like, okay, why don't we add an apple? Do you like apples? Those are easy to grab and go. Um, how about we start there? And like, do you like any vegetables? And like now that was her starting place. Now we're at the point where she bought a juicer and she's like loving it and wants to like make this juice concoction all the time. And she actually likes beets and she's like adding variety and she's no longer entertained by the thought of like a honey bun and a Coca-Cola. Like she's expanded her palate a little bit, but it just started really small with like one fruit, one vegetable.
Yeah, and fruit's also like a really easy one as well, that has gotten a bad rap because people like to call
Yeah.
fructose sugar, and they're like, oh no, fruit's sugar, it's bad for you. I was like, Linda, listen.
Yeah.
Listen, Linda.
Oh my gosh. No.
It's like, no, 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 no. Just about anything can be bad for you if you have too much, right? The danger is in the
No.
dosage.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like, fruit is one of those really easy ones to start with too, because I can go get a rack of bananas, or a jumble of bananas, a bunch of bananas,
Bunch of
whatever,
banana.
a banana bunch
Yes.
from the store, and it's cheap and it's easy, and I just peel its skin off. You
Right.
know, thank God they're not alive. How terrible would that be? Um, Intrusive thoughts. What? Uh, um, all right, good. But that's so easy. It's carbs. Sure, it's
Right.
sugar, but it's not quite the same. It's fructose, and it's an easy way to change that stuff. It's still kind of sweet, because I feel like one of the problems that people tend to have when they're trying to eat healthier or increase, their nutrient density and their food quality stuff, is they're used to this really hyper palatable stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and so now, like, if I go to eat something like celery, I'm like, dude, this sucks. It's gross. Or if I just eat like a potato, I'm like, yeah, well, this really needs a bunch of sour cream and cheese,
Mhm.
and or butter, right? Or maybe it's not a little bit of margarine and some salt. So you kind of have
Yeah.
to like work your palate into that, right?
Right.
Like when I was a kid, I hated broccoli, and now I'm like, broccoli's the best vegetable that exists.
Right. Right.
And
You do
so
have
like
to force
doing
yourself in.
Yeah, and so like doing those things slowly. So even though, yes, we all want really quick results, what I think most of us really don't put into like words is that we want sustainable results and we want long-term results. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to lose the same 30, 40 pounds and gain it back over and over and over
Right.
throughout their lifetime. That's annoying and frustrating.
Yeah.
So how do we do things in a way that's realistic? Well, we get used to it. So again, like maybe I added an apple and a banana to my day, and I replaced something else.
Mhm.
So now I have that food volume. Sure, maybe it's a little bit helpful in terms of my calorie intake, but it's definitely going to be better for my micronutrient intake. And
Right.
now I'm getting used to those foods that aren't quite as hyper palatable. And fruits are great for that. So we're like berries, strawberries, blueberries,
Yeah.
raspberries, those kinds of things. Because now that starts being something like, oh yeah, that's good. And so
Yeah.
now, like the way that you're tasting things, the things that you're used to start shifting. So now you can make the next change away from maybe some of the stuff that is more hyper palatable,
Right.
and it's not as big of a thing. You're like, oh, like this sucks so bad. Like nothing tastes good. Like all this food is bland. And you're like, oh, okay, no, it does have flavor. It's just here and it's there. Or maybe
Right.
it's a little bit behind the scenes on some things, right?
Right.
And so it teaches you to, I think, work your way into that in a much more realistic way instead of being like, all right, cool, it's time to diet chicken and asparagus and tilapia and broccoli. That's all we get now. And like wonder why you're miserable.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so, I had such an interesting conversation with a client this morning because she often goes and gets fast food because I was asking her how's nutrition been. She often goes and gets fast food and she'll come up with these extravagant excuses. And I finally was like, I don't I don't believe in that excuse. I think that there's something that's like more like it probably tastes good. What is wild to me, and I had full like disclosure to her and honesty, is that I can't even imagine myself enjoying that fast food now that I know the taste of like wholesome food. So to meet her where she's at is very difficult. But I also know that like I didn't just come out of the womb there. It took time for me to develop that and for me to appreciate the taste of food, like the taste that food does taste good. Like I definitely grew up on like God only knows. I'm pretty sure I had a munchkin and a hash brown from McDonald's every single day and two packets of ramen noodles after school and like buttery popcorn and all the things that taste delicious, like delicious. But if you were to put that in front of me now, that it's not as because I've been able to expand my palate and been able to taste or appreciate the taste of a banana is fucking good. Like, let's be honest, a banana is really good. Put some peanut butter on there. Amazing. Berries are amazing. So I think it does take that ability to try different things. And then you'll realize that you, because there are probably some foods, I'm curious about this with you, that use, for instance, spray butter. I used to spray everything with spray butter, thinking it was the best flavor in the world. Now my mom had that like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, like what is this? Why did I think that it was okay to use this? And I loved it. Like I loved that flavor. Because I've expanded and there's great flavor in olive oil and sea salt put together, or like grass-fed butter. Like those taste amazing.
So I would say those things are both higher in fat, so they would be palatable. And this is kind of where we have to be careful, right? Is because just because, and this is why where how you define this idea of food quality matters.
Yeah.
Because if your definition of food quality says that avocados and olive oil are better than margarine or uh, like a 0 calorie kind of spray butter kind of thing, which by the way, it's not 0 calorie. If you use half the bottle every time, it's not 0 calorie. It's
Yeah.
many calories at that point. Um, because the way that the FDA works is if a serving is under 50 calories, it can be listed as zero.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's actually 0 calories. It just means that they can list it that way.
Right.
So you do have to be aware of that, just like the spray oils, normally it's 0 calories. Well, it's 0 calories for like an eighth of a second of a spray.
And who does that?
Nobody does that.
Right.
So with that in mind, saying you could be going to a much more calorie dense thing in this idea that, hey, this food quality is going up because now I'm having more avocado or I'm having more oil in general with olive oil or something that I'm using for that. So it is important to be aware of that down the road. And
Yeah.
that's why, we want to define it well for each of us. Now, do I think that olive oil is better than other fat sources? Yeah, of course. It has a very even blend of mono, polyunsaturated fats and saturated fats. And in general, I try to encourage people to probably keep saturated fats down, animal fat kind of stuff. Um, but like, and I would say, I don't think that all that stuff tastes bad, you know? Um, so I think the spray butter thing makes sense, but if spray butter is all you have, then again, you get used to that and you're like, this is good. Because like I'm the ADHD guy, right? So when I'm dieting, my diet's like mirrored. It's like I have specific foods that I go to. I'm
Yeah.
using more oatmeal and stuff. I always use a lot of chicken, whatever. But like I have specifics that I know that when I'm in a deficit, like that's what I go to. I change out full fat cheese in the morning for fat-free cheese. I do less whole eggs and more egg whites. Um, but I change what I do. So like I also get used to that. So maybe oatmeal with some brown sugar in it is really good then. But right now to me, I'd be like, that's okay. I guess okay, I
Yeah.
can deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what kind of happens because I'll be honest, we had fast food because we were traveling. So this past weekend, we went out to Whistler. We got a little skiing, snowboarding in for the spring with Sam and her husband, which was awesome. If you guys have never been to BC and Vancouver and Whistler, it is 10 for 10 gorgeous. There was no rain. Everything was sunny. Everything was green and beautiful. The only thing is I didn't see any bears. I was really bummed about that.
Bummer.
I know, right? But when we got back, we were flying standby. Well, there was one seat left on the flight to Tampa. There was a flight to Orlando a few hours later. So I flew home to Tampa, got our baggage, got the truck, and then drove directly from Tampa Airport to Orlando Airport to go pick up Jill.
Okay.
So there's no way I'm not, if I want to eat, I'm having fast food. I'll be honest, it didn't taste that great, but I didn't use the sauces and the other stuff, whatever. The fries were solid though. Waffle fries, tops.
Mm.
Um, but what sucked about it for me was my digestion got wrecked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even if like some of it did taste pretty good, I didn't digest it all that well. Normally I can handle that, but I think it was a little bit more because we were in the airport all day. So everything was fast food that day.
Yeah.
So the amount of that stuff can get you too. So
Right.
just one more reason to kind of take your time because it can go in the other direction as well. You're not used to getting any fiber, and now all of a sudden you're getting 30 grams of fiber a day right out of nowhere.
Right.
Your system might not have had time, and you're like, oh man, like I can't eat this healthy food. It makes me feel terrible. And you're like, okay, we gotta ease it in, you know? You
Right.
need some food foreplay, so to speak. You
Yeah.
know, gotta warm yourself up.
I love that you mentioned digestion because that's a big thing for me. And reason being, because when I competed early on, it was a lot of like processed stuff, definitely artificial everything. Like I did anything and everything to diet hack myself on stage, right?
It was IFYM, right? That was the beginnings. That's what it was back then. It was Birdo and Pop Tarts and just make the macros work and you're good.
Yeah. But I also did like Walden Farms. Like I definitely overdid all of that. And then afterwards, I had such a wrecked stomach. I had a gastrologist. There was just a lot of stuff that was happening. And I remember going to one specific doctor and we did a bunch of testing and she was like, what do you eat? And because you seem like you're in good shape. Like, what do you eat? What are you doing? And when I let her know, she was like, the quality and the actual nutrient density of all of this is like completely lacking. Like you're actually not eating food at that point. And so no wonder why your stomach is in distress and you're getting full faster because your stomach is so inflamed. And so there was just that was like my aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even considering that. And I think that that's a huge thing to consider. And everyone's digestion is going to be different, right? So like what works for you might not work for me and vice versa. So, and I wish more people tapped into that a little bit more. I encourage my clients, like after their meal, tell me how you feel. I want 2 hours post meal how are you feeling? If I said, oh my gosh, there's a fire in your house, sprint and run out of the house, would you be able to do that? Or are you sluggish? Are you like really lax? Or do you have a lot of gas? Like what's going on from a digestive standpoint? Because that tells me that like the food that you're taking in isn't even working in the way that you want it to, that your body isn't even converting it into energy.
Some people are just full of farts, okay?
True. This is, well, I don't know about that, but
It's a medical condition. It only has one way to go.
flatulence.
Um, this one like popped out to me because I had to look up his name real quick. Um, Apparently he's very popular. He does YouTube stuff, and he's like getting ready for his first show. Is Will Tennyson.
Okay.
And so I had never watched any of his stuff because I don't really watch YouTube. I don't watch any of our stuff, whatever. But I was over at Sam's and they were kind of they were watching the videos on the TV and they're like, okay, this is what we watch. I was like, all right, cool. And it was interesting because he was putting together like these volume food bowls. And it reminded me of when I was doing that. And back then I was getting like 70 to 100 grams of fiber a day
Wow.
because I was prepping and I was just using everything. I was using the shiitake news. I was using the
Yes.
the calorie ice cream, the Walden Farms. Walden Farms always destroyed me.
Oh my
Nothing.
God.
As soon as
Yeah.
it touched me, I was going to the bathroom.
Yes.
Um, and I was like, man, how did I survive back then? Because I definitely can't handle that now. And so it's
Yeah.
like you slowly work your way into that, you
Yes.
know, and
Yep.
maybe it can work. But I was like, I was looking at his foods and I was like, man, that much broccoli, that much cauliflower rice would absolutely destroy me.
Yeah.
I would just be in pain.
Yeah.
And like I had cramps one time really bad in my internal parts, and I was like, nope, I don't know how women do this, can't do it. Kill me now. So I was like, I'm not signing up for that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah. I think that that is so important. And recently I just had another client message me her check-in and she said, had such a great trip, saw my family. I indulged a little bit and we had a few treats there. And every single time I had this specific treat, I have indigestion for the next 3 days. I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm like, well, you're just a glutton for punishment. Like, if you know that this is going to bother you, then you got to pause in that moment and say, is it worth it? And maybe for some people it is, right? Like maybe for some people they're like, no, 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 I'm not like, I'm okay with the suffering. It's fine. But I really think that like these are things to put into consideration and helps you to learn more about like how food plays a role in your body. And if you want food as fuel and if you want to start like tweaking a few choices, listen to how your body responds to those choices that you're making.
Yeah, and I think that can be difficult if you don't have a pretty consistent dietary intake.
Yep,
You're eating different stuff all the time. It's really hard to figure out like,
it
oh,
is.
hey, I switched it up on this day and it really didn't feel good. Or I switched it up on that day and like, man, like I was just gas central, you know? Um, so
Right.
sometimes it even starts with just being more consistent with things. So even if it's not the most like nutrient dense or it's not the most quality food sources, like starting to nail that down so you don't have this crazy amount of variety.
Yep.
Because I do think people go to the other end of the spectrum on this too, where they're like, oh, I have to, and we've seen this. It's like the macro masters that have all the recipes and do all the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're trying to do different stuff all the time. Most
Yeah.
people I know don't have time for that. Like that's hard. It's
Right.
hard to cook and to do all this fancy stuff all the time. So I think being simplistic with it to some degree can be really beneficial to let you know how is my digestion working with? Do I feel good? Do I feel like I can't poop for 3 days? Do I feel like I pooped 4 times today? You
Right.
know,
Right.
what makes me feel good? What am I good with? Which one, creates stomach pain and gas pains or bloating or
Yeah. Yeah.
which ones give me the stink gas, versus
Right.
the
Right.
nobody knew.
Right. Right. I think that is so important. And to simplify it so that when you do have issues happening, you can actually present the data and it's not like, oh God, like the needle in a haystack and I don't even know where to start with you because there's so much happening. So being able to say, Yeah, every time. It's nice to be able to say, like for me, for instance, every time I have eggs, I have a little bit of a bellyache. And I know this, but it's because I'm not making like an extravagant thing around it. I'm not like adding 50 other ingredients. I know that if it's an egg and it goes inside my body, I have a bellyache. So it allows you to be more of an investigator of your own body, which is a pretty cool thing to become.
And I think that, that again, this requires attention to detail and intention. Um, so that sucks, but it's part of it. Uh, I think it also gets overcomplicated, and I think that's where like the additives and like the ingredients lists and those kind of things kind of get overbearing for people. And I think we can simplify this down a little bit, and everybody hates it. But you remember those old school, like, this is how your plate should look at the hospital and in health
Yeah,
class and those kind of things? Like, that could do so many people so good. It really is that simple.
it
Make
is.
make
Yeah.
this much of your plate protein and a lean protein. Make this much
Yep.
of your plate veggies. Make this much plate of your plate like carbohydrates that are going to be like potatoes or sweet potatoes or rice or that kind of stuff. The simple things. The, the reason people don't like it, it's not exciting, it's not sexy. Like we're not
Not,
selling, yeah, I'm not selling you a magic pill. I'm not selling you anything that you don't know. This is
this is basic.
yeah, but that shit works. Not only in terms of like for a lot of people helping them lose weight, but also for helping you just feel better because you can be skinny or lean and still feel like ass. Like
100%.
because
100%.
honestly, one of the worst times I ever felt is when I'm at my leanest. It's staged. That's normally when I feel about my worst, with the exception of some post-operation like surgery stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding that, like, okay, well, if I can be a little bit more intentional about how I fuel myself, about the food choices that I make, maybe have some more things that have fiber, because that's going to be associated generally with more nutrient density.
Yeah.
I will hopefully feel better. Maybe my energy is better throughout the day. Maybe I don't have highs and lows as much, right? You probably
Yeah.
understand this better than anybody. Danica's
Yeah.
blood sugar gets to like 160. She's like, I will destroy the world.
Not okay.
Just kidding. She's like,
I
give me that
love
insulin.
I I remember Paul had said like 3 years ago maybe, but about like CGMs and how no one should be wearing those devices. I think that it wasn't the data that we have now, or like the knowledge I guess we have about CGMs now. If if more people wore them, not that I'm encouraging everybody to like go out and get a CGM, but I'm saying
Good, because I'm going to
it
fight you on this in just a second.
okay, but it does the same as how does my belly feel after this? Like, I think that it has provided me really good insight into like things that I didn't know would spike my blood sugar that much, but actually does. For instance, um, like coffee is one of them, where like black coffee, nothing in it, nothing added, but black coffee, full caffeinated. One would think you don't need any insulin for that.
Caffeine does.
But what?
Caffeine. It's
Caffeine.
going to
Yeah,
increase
right.
metabolic rate, which is going to increase the breakdown of things like glycogen and create more
Right.
glucose in the bloodstream.
When this did start happening, though, I was like, what cool insight. Like, I wouldn't have known this. Like, if I didn't see it happening, I wouldn't have known that or like wanted to learn about it of like, oh shit, this is how caffeine actually affects my body. That is pretty interesting. Cool. Like, it's cool to know.
So I think if you're using it as a learning tool, it can be arguable. Like, but I think what happens is more often than not, healthy people using CGMs or continuous glucose monitors, is that they go into it with this mindset of figuring out what they're doing wrong
Oh,
instead
okay.
of, right, because they've automatically decided or have been told that, if and yes, there's guidelines for your blood glucose levels at rest and fasted, and yes, okay. I mean, outside of it, they're now like, oh, well, I've been told if my blood glucose hits like 160 or 180, like this is a huge problem. Well, like,
No.
but did you just have a big meal? Did you exercise?
Right.
Did you,
Right.
right? So it's like they're instead of using it as something like, well, I want to see if there's kind of some things about how I feel that this can give me more
Yes.
information on. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel that most healthy people use it to try and diagnose or do something that ends up adding more stress and problems for them.
Mm. Yeah.
And for a lot of them, it ends up being a net negative. Just like I think the body fat percentage stuff on the scales and stuff F's most people up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not helpful information from them for them.
Hmm. Right.
Now, if we're using it to be like, man, I feel bad all the time, or like, man, I really like I get low blood sugar, but I know what it's from. It's because I don't can eat, you know? Oh, I
Right.
went too,
Right.
I took my meds, I've been working, I forgot to eat, and whoop, now I feel like butthole, you know? Of
Right.
course.
Yeah.
So is it that I need a CGM to tell me that my blood sugar is low because I feel like ass? Or do I feel like ass and I can say, oh yeah, I haven't eaten, I need to eat. I need to actually take care of myself. And
Yeah.
so if you need that to be able to like try and dial that in and figure that out for yourself, okay. I think that there are oftentimes other indicators, like the fact that maybe I'm shaky, or maybe I'm really hot, or maybe I'm really cold,
Right.
that are telling me that something's off. And then I can deduce that from there. Um,
Well,
that's
you have
my two
that
cents.
introspective though of like
Right.
you're able to kind of look in and note that.
Of course. And some people are like, they'll go in and do a squat and be like, I don't feel my legs on this. It's like, so absolutely there's a difference in where you're at that matters there.
Right.
But again, I mean, I think generally speaking, I would ask somebody, well, do you feel like you have good energy throughout the day? Yes or no? Hmm, no. Okay. Do you feel like you get tired at certain parts of the day? Yes. Do you feel like you feel weaker at certain points of the day? You know what I mean? So I do feel like there are some other things that we can go through. Like, all right, well, okay, you feel like you're weaker at 3 p.m. What's your meal schedule look like? I eat breakfast and dinner. I got
Right.
news.
Right.
You know?
I think it's a good tool though if you have good intention with it.
Yeah, I think people just get overwhelmed with it
I
because
think so, yeah.
it's a new thing and it's so much data, and there's so many people that are selling you like this idea of like insulin resistance is the reason you can't do this and all this other stuff.
Oh,
And for
yeah,
healthy persons, it's like, I don't know, dude.
right. Well,
And,
also
and I
I
think
think
they're absolutely
people,
beautiful for people that actually do have type 1 and type 2, given
yes,
that they're accurate.
right. I think also people forget that you should probably have a spike. Like that like post meal, you're gonna have a spike and that's okay. That like keeping your blood sugar at 100 like all day long is just not realistic. And you should have an appropriate spike of blood sugar, and then your body does its job and gives you insulin, and then you have a go back down and everything is good and you stabilize. So I think sometimes people have it kind of misinterpreted that like, oh, if I get the CGM, I'm going to keep the perfect blood sugar in the straightest line all the time. What's wild is that I can actually do that, which is crazy to me because it's not a normal thing
But your
that,
life also depends on it to
well,
some
it does,
degree.
I know,
Like,
but
let's be real.
right. But I think that is a appropriate physiological response. Like you should have a spike. So people kind of freak out in that sense. And then they try to negate that. They try to say like, oh no, I shouldn't have a spike. So I can't eat that. Like, no. You should. It's the 2 hour post that you're probably looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been studies that showed like where like protein has had a bigger spike in insulin response than
Yeah.
carbohydrate foods. So that's why it's like you can't have a one size fits all. But like I said, I think normally the people that get into those kinds of things to me are the people who are very type A and looking for um, other answers.
Right.
And generally speaking, for me, again, it's people getting into trigonometry before they've even gotten their multiplication down because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I need a CGM. And I was like, no, dude, you're stressed beyond all belief. You need to figure out how to take care of yourself and take some
Right.
time for you.
Yeah.
Because guess what else can impact your blood sugar? Stress,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but So yeah, I think if we're getting back to the food quality stuff, absolutely that food quality can make a difference on things like blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about energy levels, really that's kind of what we're referring to, right? Is that things are digested at a more even pace, not quite so fast. So you're not having this big spike of energy or blood sugar, whatever, and
Yeah.
then the corresponding fall where you feel like ass.
Yes.
Um,
I would also say like another reason to consider bringing a little bit more energy to your food quality is if you're having a lot of high processed foods and you are like, but I'm always hungry. Well, your body actually is going to be searching for like amino acids, and it's going to be like, I didn't get enough nutrients anyways. So I'm hungry. Feed me until you give me the nutrients that I need. When you have higher quality foods, I do find, at least like in my own personal life and then in speaking with other people, I feel like your ghrelin and leptin hormones are actually better state, like they're stabilized a little bit better. Um, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel that hunger is fucked sometimes. Like those cues are fucked up a little bit if it's all high processed foods.
so I can't correct you on leptin stuff. But what I can say is that obviously your stomach responds with ghrelin to some degree based on stretch reflex. When you're having
Mhm.
less of the ultra processed food, you tend to have more food volume, meaning you
Right.
have larger meals. You're getting
Mhm.
a higher amount, which is going to mean that your stomach will be stretched more,
Right.
which is going to have an impact on how full or satiated you feel and how long that lasts. It
Right.
is also going to mean that we probably have more protein content.
Yeah.
Protein being one of those things that sits, it's a little bit heavier in your stomach. Again,
Right.
same kind of vibe. It takes longer to digest typically. Um, so I think those things alone would be two arguments for why it helps you to not be as hungry. Because if I eat a thing of cereal, guess what? I can feel that my stomach's empty a lot sooner than if I had maybe some salad or veggies with some chicken and rice or something else.
Right. Right.
So it changes that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think I would agree with the overall point that yes, when you have better nutrient density and food value there, you're going to not be as hungry as much. I think it's probably multifaceted. Uh,
Yeah.
I think some people, especially as they get leaner, do themselves a disservice on this because they eat so clean, quote unquote, that they don't
Mm-hmm.
get enough sodium and salt. And I find that when people start getting really lean, they just don't retain it the same, and they do need
Uh,
to increase that. You know, you
yeah.
start cramping and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When I get lean, I directly see the correlation between my hunger signaling and how much salt I'm eating. And so when I
Yeah.
salt things and I eat a lot saltier foods, my hunger level is way, way better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
don't do it if you have high blood pressure. Please consult your physician if you
Obviously.
have medical
Right.
issues. Yeah, all
Yeah.
that good stuff. But we're talking about like generally healthy people, healthy kidneys,
Yeah.
healthy blood pressure.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you think that, I mean, and there's another like phrase that I really like to mm, live by 90% of the time because I have a little flex in my life. But like if you are not able to hunt it, grow it, catch it, then that's something that I always think about 90% of the time. So like there's definitely this flux where there are things I'm like, there's no way I could grow that shit. Like I don't think I would be able to grow that or catch it or hunt it. But I do find that that is a lens that I often view my choices from when it comes to food.
yeah, I think I would be on a different page than you on that one. Um, like first and foremost, like I love my wife. Doesn't matter what plan I get her, that bitch is dead in like a week, right?
Oh,
Even succulents in the house, those things are dead after like a month, right? Like, okay. So for her, like she can't hunt. She's not gonna grow her own food. You know what I
well,
mean?
no, I'm not saying like you actually do it. I'm saying when
Okay.
you sit at the store, if it wasn't hunted, caught, or grown, then I'm like, meh, I don't know about this. it falls in my 10%. So when I'm purchasing items, I like purchase chicken. I'm like, yeah, that was definitely like hunted, caught, whatever. Or like a salmon that was caught. My vegetables were grown. Like
So
that's what I'm thinking.
I think that's a misconception because I don't think most stuff is not caught. Most stuff is farm raised, right? So it should kind of be a similar, I think, vibe there. There's a difference between farm raised salmon and wild salmon, typically in terms of the macronutrients, right? Wild salmon tends to have a little bit higher fat content.
Yeah.
So I would say one for me, it's probably about 20% of my diet. I'm like, cool, I'll do the extra stuff that maybe I know isn't quite as good for me, so that I feel like I have more diversity or more snacks or more things that make me happy. But there's a lot of stuff that has artificial ingredients in it that has been proven pretty goddamn safe. Now, of course, there's always, and again, what is that threshold? Because if that threshold is 0.001% for the people that are overseeing it and like, yep, that's good for us. We're cool with that. Then, okay, great. It's going to be in the store. Now, are you comfortable with that? That's a different story. And
Right.
that's where you get to make your own
Really?
choices on those things.
Yeah.
But like, I eat the chicken that's been in, like, it always has water added to it, almost always, right? Because I buy the cheaper shit because
Uh-huh.
I'm cheap. And if I die early, then I die early and I died well, you know? But I'm not going to also be afraid of the chocolate eggs. You know, I love
Right.
them Cadbury eggs, dog.
Why
Um,
are they so good?
and
You
so
know
I
what's
think,
like the best thing? I just a quick side note.
yeah,
Easter only, I love Easter because of those Cadbury eggs.
I
Those
mean,
are
yeah,
they're so good. Okay.
I didn't make it to the store to get any extra because I was
The
gone last
mini,
weekend.
well, I like the
Yeah,
mini
so
Cadbury eggs.
I think we talked about this last time too. I like
Did
the
we?
filled ones. Yeah.
You like the like bigger ones with
Oh
like
yeah.
the stuff in the yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So, quick side note, I had a prep where I would have like one of those and I would
Yeah.
put it in the microwave for like 10 to 15 seconds to soften it up. And it makes the inside like filling hot and different.
Well, good God.
Right,
Like
totally. Um, but anyways, so like I do think that there are some things that have been proven fairly well overall because like you have sweeteners, right? You use
I use monk fruit.
okay. But a lot of people use Splenda, stevia.
Yeah, but like this doesn't have monk fruit in it. Like,
Totally. So yes, you do use sweeteners, and it's
yes,
either sriracha or it's one of the other ones, right?
right.
And so you can look, and I would say whatever sweetener that is, based on the name.
Yeah,
What does it say? Sucralose,
I know.
aspartame. Aspartame is equal. Sucralose is Splenda.
Good
Uh,
God, this doesn't.
Saccharin is sweet and low, for example. But those things have been well proven to be quite safe. You're like, oh, but the mouse got
See, this is
cancer.
sucralose. Sucralose.
Sucralose, so Splenda. But the
Yeah.
mouse, he's got cancer. It's like, yeah, well, the mouse has ate way more than you are ever going to eat
Right.
in a sitting.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so like again, dangers in the dosage, and
Right.
that's probably not an issue if you use it in relation or reasonably. Now, if you're like, cool, I don't want to do that and I want to do monk fruit, great. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
fine too.
Yeah.
But there are other things like the sugar alcohols, the erythritol that I find wreck people's digestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's in a lot of like those low calorie friendly foods, which
Mhm.
and maybe this is the last point I make because otherwise we'll go really long. Um, I don't like the fit food things. I don't like a lot of the really low calorie
Neither do I.
things. Because not only kind of like what we were talking about before, we have to train our palate to be a little bit different so that it's not so big of a change. So
Right.
now it's easier to accept and have these food changes and enjoy them and not have it be such a big deal and have it be more manageable. Um, those things, I think, oftentimes people use it. Oh, well, it's a sugar-free peanut butter cup. It's a sugar-free this. It's a,
Yeah.
it's this.
Yeah.
So most things that are sugar-free are higher fat. Fun fact. Most things that are fat-free are higher sugar
Sugar.
to make
Yeah.
it more palatable.
Yep.
Now, if they use a ton of those sweeteners and stuff or other things, that can be hard on digestion.
Hmm.
The other thing, and this is my bigger one, is now you are getting used to associating those sweeter things with that volume that you're using for a low calorie option on it.
Yeah.
So what happens when you don't have the low calorie sweeter thing? You are still used to, you have trained yourself, you have Pavloved yourself to, like, when you ring that bell, to have the same amount of volume there. Well, that's a
Yeah.
really easy way to overeat.
Hmm.
And that can be a problem too, because now you're getting something that, sure, maybe you're getting a lot more of a fake sugar sweetener, or if it's something with erythritol, now you're doing something that can absolutely make you not feel great.
Right.
Um, but then when you go to the things that do have real sugar and don't maybe have all the extra additive stuff, and still some for sure, now it's like, well, now it's really easy to overeat on that a lot.
Right. Right. No, I totally agree. I think it's important for everybody to know where they're at with starting to make changes if they even want to make changes and look at food quality. And then also another thing that I always think about is what's the aftermath of this choice that I'm about to make? And am I okay with it? Because like you do you and you eat the food that like you feel fuels you better, but be educated in your choices if you're going to make those choices. And also know that like everything that we do, all the choices that we make will impact us in some way or another, whether that's good or bad or okay or whatever, right? So like when you are making these decisions, you just have to have a good understanding of the impact that it has, whether short term or long term, and then be okay with that decision that you're making. There is no, I truly believe there's no like necessarily right or wrong or that's really bad or that's good. Like I don't really like that language. If it serves you well and you're okay with the impact that it brings to your body and your life, then do it. If it doesn't, then investigate and like course correct.
Hmm. See, now I want to argue with you more.
Why? Why? I
No,
am
no,
used
I think
to
there
that.
are, in fact, there are some things that are good for you. There are some things that are bad for you, right?
Yeah, I totally agree, but you should know, you should make that decision.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so I think within that same thought process, if you want to do something that's bad for you, just
Yep.
own that it's bad for you. And I think this is what you're really saying.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If
Hey,
I am going to
you
like,
want to smoke a cigarette, smoke the damn cigarette.
right,
But
but you
just,
have to know its impact.
yes.
Exactly. So like don't get down on yourself because like something happened when you've been making the choices all along that impacted that and brought you to the thing that happened. So if I like I went out a few weekends ago and I absolutely had more than one tequila shot fully knowing that I wasn't
Hammered.
going to sleep well. Like I wasn't going to sleep well. I definitely was just going to feel yucky. My digestion was going to be off, but I consciously made that decision knowing the impact of that decision. And I wasn't like mad about it because I owned it. So I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm saying is just be educated about the choices that you're making, knowing the impact. And if you choose something that's negatively going to impact you, you made that choice.
Yeah. And I think that that education part's important there, right?
Right.
Like, remember, people used to think smoking cigarettes was healthy and good for you. Like, that
Yeah.
used to be a thing. There used to be a time when warning labels weren't on packs of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Um, just like, I'm sure you remember this growing up. Everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, a certain amount of drinking is great for you. It's good for your health."
Oh, yeah.
And now we're pretty much like, "Yeah, no, that's bullshit." You know,
Right.
like
Right.
drinking's not good for your health.
Right.
Can you still do it and still have good health? Yeah. You just got to keep it in check, right? Dangers in the dosage.
Right.
Um, the one I always try and tell people is my goal for you on this trip, this vacation, this time when your family's visiting is I want you to make decisions that you feel good about before, during, and after.
Right.
Um, so if you can that way, because I don't want there to be this guilt or this I should have done that, I should have done that around your eating
Yeah.
habits and stuff. I'm like,
Right.
you're an adult. I don't work with anybody that's under 18, so you're an adult. You're
Right.
capable and able to make the decisions that you feel are right for you.
Right.
My job here is to help educate and inform you on what does that impact look like? What's
Yeah.
option A? What's option B? How do we
Right.
work around these things?
Right.
It's not to make decisions for you.
No.
It's yes, I want to help hold you accountable, but I want to educate you and empower you so that you can make the decisions that you're going to feel best with, you know?
Yeah. It's
And
just
so that's
leading you
different.
to the choices. Yeah. And everyone has a choice. Like that's the beautiful thing. You always have a choice for the most part. You always have like this opportunity of like you could choose this way or you could choose that way, as long as you know like what path that is and what's happening at the end of that path. Like then make that decision for yourself. But the guilt, I think that is something that people should also look into. If you're constantly feeling like just really not happy about the choices that you're making, then maybe that's time to explore that guilt or that feeling of like, man, of disappointment in yourself. That's got to be speaking in some, if it's a healthy way, because I've also had people feel guilt and shame with things that I've had to be like, well, that's just not appropriately placed. So I think it is important to explore that a little bit and maybe explore it against your choices. And could you make different choices?
So I always think about like the abusive relationship or the self-destructive behaviors, right?
Mhm.
Like oftentimes we can still feel good about a choice and it can lead to outcomes that we don't feel good about.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that can be done in a manner to where we don't even recognize it because the choice that's leading us to outcomes we are not happy about, like it feels good. It feels normal. It feels familiar. It's like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. This feels right. It's like,
Mm.
okay, it might feel right, but where's it leading you also?
Right.
Because even if it feels right, if it's leading you down the alleyway, it might not be right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's also important, and that's where that education and kind of self-reflection comes in, where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I think this is the right one, but even though I'm doing this thing that I feel is right,
Hmm.
I'm getting quote unquote the wrong response result.
Right.
So obviously there's something there that's not happening through that process to get us where we want to go. We need to rethink what we're doing. We need to take a step back and say, okay, cool. Am I trying to change everything all at once? And it keeps biting me in the butt because I burn out and then I'm off plan for weeks and months at a time. Okay, well then I need to stop trying to do everything right all of a sudden and work my way into just doing it a little bit better. You know, is when I changed this food source and started eating this thing, my stomach hurts all the time and I'm cranky about it, or I just don't feel good. Okay, well, even if that's a quote unquote right choice, maybe it's not right for you. And maybe we need to look for something else so that we feel better through the process.
Right.
You know, is the right decision for me adding one veggie per meal? Is it starting to just do something simple like make my plate match the doctor's office? Right? What makes sense for you? And that's where you have to be able to like take that step back and say, okay, cool. Well, if I'm effing off all the time and I never pay attention to this, maybe even just starting to pay attention to it is a step in the right direction. We tend to put that huge weight on our shoulders that we have to be perfect at everything right off the bat and we have to manage it and we have to do well. It's like, no, no, no. Like we can work our way into it and work on acquiring the mastery instead
Hmm.
of just expecting ourselves to be the master out of nowhere right off the bat.
Right. Yeah. It literally all starts with that awareness. That's it. I like it. I can't hear you.
I said, all right, that's probably about a good place to stop anyways, right?
That's perfect.
Do you still have to go pick up the kids?
I do.
Boo.
Boo.
And we'll have to do this thing because we kind of picked on you on that other podcast. We'll have to do one where we pick on me. We'll have to do one where we pick on Christina.
Okay, good.
So you'll have to find some things you want to pick on us about,
You're feeling left out. Okay.
or you don't. But I'm sure everybody would love just grilling the rest of us too.
Oh my God.
I
Yeah,
know we
because
didn't
that was
do.
just like that was definitely the tables have turned and like all psychological evaluations apply to Danica.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
fine.
I love
Yeah.
it. So just so you know,
Good stuff.
you and for everybody out there, it's on the table.
I'm going to start taking notes in
Don't you
my good
segue.
fashion.
Woof, woof. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. Questions, comments, don't forget to like and or subscribe. Bye.
Bye.